Viridian, the Green Guide, written by Clouds, read by Distracted by Books, Chapter 71, Letters. Oi! Kotsky, there's a letter for you! Kotsky ignored his old hag's excitement as he jumped down half the stairs and snatched the letter from her hand. Give me that. It's UA, right? Of course it is, brat, she scoffed proudly and cuffed him lightly over the head. You better have gotten in. Kotsky rolled his eyes. Obviously, I got in, old hag. Now leave so I can have some peace and quiet while I open it. If you want quiet, go to your room. Fine. Kotsky trudged up the stairs, envelope in hand, and slammed the door. It was finally here. The evidence that all his hard work had been worth it. If Ogawa wasn't still missing, Kotsky probably would have gone to the beach and opened it with him and the others. But as much as he hated it, now that the weekly meetings were over, the group hadn't really been hanging out as much. They tried, but Kotsky had been busy preparing for the entrance exam, and the other two were busy trying to find better jobs now that their records were clean. They still texted occasionally and had hung out once or twice, and if Kotsky was ever just wandering around the underground, he was bound to run into them eventually. But without Ogawa to glue them together, it was taking a lot more work to maintain the friendship. To make things even harder, even though none of them had ever mentioned it, Kotsky could tell they all knew something was missing when they hung out. So the less they saw each other, the less they had to remember what it used to be like. Kotsky shook his head. He'd find him. He only hesitated slightly before tearing open the envelope. This was the moment of truth. Could he actually be a real hero? Instead of the letter he had expected, a weird metal disc fell out onto the desk with a loud clunk, and it took Kotsky a second to realize it was a miniature holograph projector. A bright light shone out, and when the image solidified, All Might was smiling at the camera, wearing some god-awful yellow suit. It threw Kotsky for a moment until he remembered hearing a couple of rumors at Dobby's bar that All Might was going to start teaching at UA. He'd thought the rumors were completely ridiculous, but now it looked like he owed a couple people apologies for laughing at them. Great. I am here, All Might grinned, as a projection. Kotsky rolled his eyes. Obviously, dumbass. Now get to the point. The truth is that I didn't just come to this city to fight villains. I'm the newest UA faculty member. All Might coughed slightly before continuing. Kotsky Bakugo, you got an exemplary score on the written exam and tied for first in the practical. In addition, I've been told a few heroes even put in a good word for you. Kotsky knew what All Might was going to say, but he still found himself holding his breath in anticipation. Congratulations and welcome! All Might gave the camera his signature grin. This is your Hero Academia. I got in, Queen Bee informed him. With this host's quirk and the information you gave me on the robot's design and weak points, the exam was easy, but I kept to the middle of the pack, just like instructed. Perfect. Move forward with the next phase of our plan. All for One grinned widely and disconnected the call, letting Queen Bee get back to living her host's life. She was a bit more of a wallflower than Queen Bee naturally was, but the personality change had been apparently accepted as the host turning over a new leaf and coming out of her shell. Not that he cared, of course, but it was a relief that she hadn't been discovered. It would have been inconvenient. All for One finally felt in control again. After months of meddlesome interference from vigilantes and heroes, everything was finally going according to plan. The doctor had reported that their most recent experiments had taken nicely to the tangled quirks he'd given them. And so far, neither had shown any sign of rejecting their new quirks. It was a shame that the multiple quirks had combined into what appeared to be a single quirk. But the result was far more powerful than a natural-born quirk, and it was worth the trade-off if it meant that his pawns retained their mental faculties. He could always use the failures, the Nomu, if he needed distinct quirks to make an impact. To make things even better, his contacts within the police department had reported that his distraction had worked exactly as intended. Unfortunately, most of the investigation was taking place within a small handful of heroes. So he didn't know exactly what the police knew. But from what his contact had been able to glean, the investigation was currently under the impression that the villain factory was nowhere near their goal and had, in fact, regressed due to the fact that Endeavor had died so quickly. Everyone had been so caught up in mourning the former number 2 hero and what was left of his reputation that they didn't even consider the fact that his death might have been completely intentional. It would have been even better if Endeavor had actually managed to take care of that annoying vigilante before he burned out, but it wasn't as if a child would be able to stop his grand plans from moving forward. It was almost time to begin the next movement of his symphony, and all for one couldn't be more excited. Izuku! Denki didn't knock as he barged in the front door, hurriedly toeing off his shoes before running back to Izuku's room. As he passed the kitchen, he saw Midoriya-san shaking her head, a small smile on her face. Denki gave her a quick grin before he continued running down the hall, finally throwing open the door to Izuku's room. Izuku had apparently been about to open the door to let him in, but instead his eyes widened as Denki barreled into him, unable to stop his momentum in time to keep both of them from tumbling to the floor. Izuku groaned and rubbed his head as he tried to untangle her limbs. Good to see you too, Denki, but ow! Are you boys okay in there? Midoriya-san yelled from the kitchen. Yeah, Mom, we're fine, Izuku called back. Denki was just a little excited. Sorry, Denki added, smiling sheepishly as Izuku rolled his eyes. But Izuku, my letter came. From UA? Izuku rushed to sit up. Did you open it already? Denki nodded. I tied for first place. Well, in the practical, but I did better in the written than I thought I would. I got in! Izuku grinned brightly, and Denki felt his stomach flip slightly. That's amazing, Denki. I knew you could do it. You're going to be such an amazing hero. Denki blushed and pushed him over, which just made Izuku laugh. Seriously, though, first place in the practical? Well, tied for first, but still. Denki grinned and did a fist pump. I really didn't think I was doing that well, but it turns out there were rescue points or something. I mean, I want to be a hero, right? So, of course, I was going to help the other examinees, and then there was like that thing with the 0 pointer at the end, even if I had to kind of fry my brain to beat it. Sorry, but I got in! I am proud of you. Izuku grinned. Do you know who your teacher is going to be? Denki shook his head. Somebody named Aizawa? I think he might have been there when I was weed out after the exam, you know? That guy looked kind of like a hobo, though, so it might not be the same guy. Izuku frowned. Aizawa? He might be underground or maybe retired. I know most heroes' civilians' names, but some of them can be hard to find. Oh, Denki interrupted. All Might gave the acceptance letter or speech. It was a projection. So yeah, apparently he's going to be teaching at UA next year, which explains why he was watching the entrance exam. It was kind of weird, especially because of the whole Denki sat up and pushed the door closed, lowering his voice to a whisper. The whole one for all thing, you know? It had taken a little convincing and more than one pinky promise swearing him to secrecy to get Denki to open up and tell him the whole story. But knowing everything just gave Izuku even more questions. Was the injury that All Might had shown Izuku really the result of his quirk instead of a villain fight like he'd said? Was it his quirk that had actually done the damage? If not, then why hadn't his quirk attacked his body? Who had he gotten his quirk from? Had he gotten it from All for One? Was he working with All for One? There were so many questions that Izuku didn't know how to answer, and he hated every bit of it. He didn't want to believe that All Might would be working with the villains or even just associated with them, but he had to entertain the possibility to keep Denki safe. Izuku grimaced. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was probably really awkward. I've been doing more research on it, but if it turns out to be safe, are you leaning one way or the other? Denki sighed and dragged a hand down his face. I don't know. I want to accept it because All Might is amazing. And it sounds really cool, assuming that it won't kill me, but I just... Denki groaned. I still don't feel like I deserve it. There are so many better people. Izuku cuffed him over the head. Stop that. You got first in the entrance exam. I tied for first in the practical exam. Denki corrected. But, like, you would be such a badass hero if you got one for all. If it turns out that it's safe, I kind of want to tell All Might to choose you instead. And then we would be able to be heroes together. Izuku stopped for a moment, then shook his head. My body isn't meant for a quirk, Denki. Even if one for all is somehow the exception and doesn't hurt the user, it will bond better to someone whose body already knows what a quirk is and how to use one. If he gave it to me, the quirk would probably just get rejected. And even if it wasn't, I'd be starting all over again like a 4-year-old. My body doesn't have any experience with quirks and isn't meant to. It's fine. I already know that I can't be a hero. And besides, All Might didn't choose me. He chose you. I guess, Denki frowned. It's still just a lot of pressure. But hey, I got into UA. You did, Izuku grinned. But don't take that as permission to stop training. Denki smiled back. Then I guess you better start pushing me harder. End of chapter.